Welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. Members of the Virtual Grip crew will recap the previous week's races and bring us one-on-one interviews with racers, league owners, and commentators, as well as others from within the sim racing community. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. Thanks for tuning in today. Now let's go find some grip.
And welcome to another episode of VGN Weekly. I am your host, John Heyn, along with your co-host, Josh Buckley. And this week we're going to have Fred Leclair from the Red Light Racing League. But first, Josh and I, we got a heck of a topic here this week. Early on, not a topic so much as a recap. But this week on all the races were actually quite entertaining. It started at Indianapolis with the OBRL. And, you know, we saw a heck of a race there, which Indy is always a difficult track to race on. It's fun to drive on, but you know, unless you're in an open wheel car, stock cars are really hard to get around that track and pass. But we saw Daniel Hill take the checkered flag there, and he had trouble earlier. So as I say, hard to pass. He got in trouble early, is in the back of the pack for the umpteenth week in a row, and storms back through the field, and by the end he takes the checkered flag in what was a great finish, good last 10-15 laps of that race. And then Thursday we hit the airways with your league, Josh, there at Watkins Glen, and I'm going to just say, you know, the winner was it was cool to see. People are a guy that's part of the fabric of your league, but you guys got it handed to you by a kiddo.
Yeah, that's the easy way to say it. It was a great race at Watkins Glen. A lot of different things going on. You know, watched Eric Stout. Everyone thought he was going to run away with it. That was pretty much the thing in practice, everything, and everyone was worried about it. Well, he decided to self-spin somewhere, and little 12-year-old Luke Allen whooped all of us. It was a great race. It was his first win at Red Light, so it was exciting to see. But you got to make a little joke about it that he did whoop us there. So, yeah,
you know, these kids, you know, they're so talented at such a young. I mean, you got kids his age out there driving real race cars, so and being successful doing it. But I got to ask you before we cover the last one though, what was that SK like, or not that SK, but that Tour Mod like on a road course? I've done it once, like eons ago, and it might even have been the old version of the Tour Mod. I don't think I've ever done it in the new one.
It's different for sure. It doesn't seem to like the right-handers as much, so that's a little getting used to. But overall, it wasn't bad. It was fun. You got to be up on the wheel with it, though. And really, as you'll see if you watch the race, you know, I ran out of talent 10 laps in. You know, just a mistake on my part. So you really got to be up on the wheel at all times, and it's a handful, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it looked a lot of fun. Did you guys go out and get a set for that, or did you just put a neutral set into it?
No, our setups are provided by Team 53 for the season.
Oh, so you had it. Good. All right. And it still didn't want to do the right-handers, huh?
Yeah, it's just the way the car is. Like, it does it, but you can tell it's not built for it. So yeah. That's what I think makes it interesting, but it's not like it was crazy too hard to, you know, drive, anything like that. It definitely was. It's just, you know, the more you try to push it, you see other guys that are faster. So you try pushing a little more, and then, hey, you know, now it's starting to get a little, you know, out from under you. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah, pushing on a road course, that's something that Ed Foster has been trying to drill out of my head now for a couple of months. So, but, well, you know what? We wrapped up the week last night, actually, with BRL, and it was your main voyage behind the microphone up in the booth with the legendary Soup Zahn. So I guess first, before we get to the race, how was your experience in the booth? What did you think of that?
I was definitely nervous to start, but I will say Soup makes it so much easier, so comfortable, just giving me little ins and outs to be like, you know, this is what I do, this might help you. So nervous to start, but, you know, the more we got into it, the more comfortable you felt. You know, you got to start somewhere. So I had fun.
Yeah, well, now the racing itself, you know, you guys were at Myrtle Beach, you know, and that's always got a track with its own character to it, you know, with the turtles over in 1 and 2, and then, you know, the cars wanting to, you know, turn around on you coming out of 3 and 4. So what kind of race did you guys have there?
I thought it was a pretty good race, especially two guys side by side for several laps didn't want to give it up, and I'm sitting there talking about during the broadcast, try to save your tires. You're going to want them at the end, and those two were just not giving an inch, and it showed later in the race that those tires definitely got worn out.
Yeah, those guys. I watched that broadcast too, and we're talking about Todd Liston and Ruben Altice. Those guys are battling hard in the first part of the race for second spot. Was it second spot or was it third? It was second,
I
wasn't it?
believe.
Yeah, they were running second and third, and yeah, heck of a battle there. And but we do got to give a shout out, Mark Herzog. Last week when I called the race at Oswego, he had found himself a lap down, or right on the tail end, and he was able to keep up with the leaders quite easy. So he's had pace for a couple of weeks, and this time he was able to put use to that pace and get himself a checkered flag there at Myrtle Beach. So a fun week, definitely for sure, on the VGN airwaves. You can go back, watch any of the broadcasts. I recommend you watching them all, and on your spare time there, and hope you guys enjoy them. But now let's turn our attention to a guy right out of your league here, Mr. Leclair here. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself, what league you run in, and everything else here.
I run in the Thursday night, the Red Light Racing League, Skidder something. I don't know. Josh knows the name of the whole thing. I joined that last season just for something to do, and really fell in love with racing with them guys. They're all good to race with, fun time. It's a good time.
Yeah, Fred, real quick here, give us a little bit about your journey in iRacing. How did you find iRacing, just out of curiosity? Are you new, or are you one of the COVID drop-ins?
I got it probably a year and a half ago, and
nice.
Started racing officials, then did a couple hosted races, and found Josh and them guys doing the recruitment races, and really liked running it with them. So I said, well, I might as well try and make this my first league, and best decision I made in a while for a league. It's fun.
Yeah, and funny you talk about league and then running hosted and running official, because that's kind of what we're going to talk about this week. Actually, the pros and the cons of having open races, running the official servers, to running in a league and things like that. iRacing's done such a good job of formatting their weekly racing. That they all travel around. They've got good formats to them. The three of us have kind of gravitated all towards running leagues. So I kind of feel like we should have had somebody maybe on here that might like one in the opens a little more to bring a little balance. But I'll be that guy. In here. So, Fred, I want to start with you here. What was the first thing you noticed of the difference between running in a league as opposed to running those officials you were doing?
The officials, you always have a different person you're racing with, so you don't get the consistency of racing with other people. Where in the league, you race with the same people every week, and you can gauge off their habits and what's going to happen. You can race them a different way than you do in the opens.
Yeah, and Josh, what was your decision to go league racing back when you started? Because you join officials, right off the bat anyway.
Yeah, no, the official racing I actually did for a while, and it was just as Fred was talking about. It's trying to find the consistency. It's not as easy to get the same guys around you, each and every time that you go in there. And it's just you got to learn everybody's driving style. Everybody's going to have it a little bit different. So I did the officials for a while, and then once I didn't really look into leagues for the longest time, and then I was like, oh, well, let me dabble into this. And even with that, sometimes it's just finding what works best for you. So at the beginning leagues, I was like, oh, it's pretty much the same. And then the more you get into it, obviously I run my own league now, which is a little different. But that's basically how I got into it. And then it's the consistency. I preferred it more.
Well, gotcha. For me anyway, running the nice thing about running in the officials, though, they have the I rating. So you're around guys that are roughly in your skill set. So I've always thought that was actually a really cool idea. I know there's grumblings all the time about, there should be an I rating for each car or each type of car or road, or, because, a sprint car is a whole lot different than a street stock. A GTP car is a whole lot different than a GT, a regular GT3 car. Yeah, I can see the arguments for both anyway. But Josh, question?
Yeah. So I'll start with Fred here on this. So how long? Well, how do I want to put this? So what? I had the thought and I lost it, to be honest with you. Rookie move. So what? Again, how do I word this? I'm fumbling on this.
Well, here, why you come up with that one? I got one more for Fred here, real quick. Fred, going into a league race, you talked about not knowing the guys over in the official and not knowing the guys in the league. Is there a difference for you and what you see and when you first came in the league because you didn't know how anybody ran? Now you got that consistency eventually, but starting in a league brand new, how did you approach it? Because the culture in open servers is a whole lot different than the culture in leagues most times. So how did you approach it, coming right out of there? Did you expect the same? Were you surprised?
I wasn't really surprised because when they do their recruitment races, a bunch of the guys show up, so you sort of know what it's going to be like. But I took it easy the first few weeks, trying to give space to learn guys what they were doing where I could. If I was in the open, you kind of just race because you still want to get a good finish. But in the league, you're like, well, I got another week with these guys, so I don't want to just wreck them, and then I got to race them hard again next week, and you don't know how they'll race you. So tried to be respectful for the first few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, almost the same question to you. I mean, the first time you actually raced a league race in iRacing, because there's different etiquette. I mean, that's just the only way that I can say it. There's a different etiquette on track that's expected in leagues for the most part than there is in, because in leagues, everybody kind of almost takes care of themselves, takes care of each other a little bit. Whereas in the officials, everybody's out for themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
So what was the first thing that like, oh, this is better than, or not better, but this is kind of what I want to do?
I think structure for a lot of it, but again, every league is different. So it was just hoping for more, like I said earlier, consistency on stuff. That also depends on the way some leagues are. Some leagues kind of let everybody in throughout a season, and they're perfectly fine getting more and more guys, which can cause chaos a little bit. And then you got, some leagues like mine, we shut it down. For the season, we might let one guy that, a buddy knows and is vouching for him in, on like a probationary period, but it's the structure of it, that really got me to it because, especially if you work all week and you finally get, you get to sit down and do a race and you jump into an official and you get one where some guy is just not following the iRacing etiquette and he's ruining everybody's night. And then it's like, that's the only time I got to race. It can be a little frustrating. So that's really what got me going that way.
Yeah, 100%. Do you remember your question?
So I'm actually going to go with this one. Go to Fred. So when joining leagues, what is it you're actually looking for?
Well, I've only joined your league, but when I joined it, I was hoping just for the respect that everyone shows, and you can actually race wheel to wheel with guys, and you're not going to get door slammed right out of the way, or they're not going to drive it in over their head. You can actually race and not have to worry about, oh, is this guy going to check up enough to make the corner? Well, he's going to, because he wants to finish the race too. That's what I've noticed in leagues, is the respect.
Okay, so John, same for you.
Well, I've been a part of a couple leagues, but I've been a part of maybe 3 leagues that I would say long term. I mean, I've been in the BRL, I think, since 2016, which is, holy crap, or 28, or maybe it was 2018, somewhere in that, but still good deal of time. C2C is another one I've been a part of. And, when I've gone out searching for a new league, I almost want to say the same thing here. Is, are they structured? Is there accountability? That's the big thing I like. Is there accountability on the track, and is it applied evenly? Um, I've joined leagues where I could really quickly see where, wow, it's funny, the league owner and all his buddies seem to never get a penalty, and then others do, and you can see that, usually the first one or two penalty reports, because I mean, if you watch the race back, which, I always try to watch every one of my races back so I can watch what everybody's doing. It gives you kind of an idea of, okay, that's this guy's tendencies. But then when you see things that gets a no call, but then you see one of someone that's not one of his buddies do the exact same thing in the exact same scenario, and boom, it's a call. You see it a couple times, it's like, okay, I'm done, even though it might not have affected me. Yeah, so that's basically my big thing is, is there a mechanism there to hold drivers accountable for not doing stupid stuff on the track? I always like to call them knuckleheads. Don't, weed out the knuckleheads and keep the good guys in. So that's usually my criteria there.
That's a pretty good one. I definitely, I think the same thing with that as well. It's, as you said, there are definitely leagues out there where, they kind of have their buddy system. And if you're not in that system, then you kind of get treated a little differently. And I'm sure we've all run into that with a league at some point. But, if it works for them, I'm not, it works for them. That's fine. Just, I'm with you on that. It's definitely, not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for consistency across the board. So,
yeah, I mean, the funny thing is too, people talk about like, oh, car counts, or is it broadcast? And we'll get into that now, I guess. Is that's a big debate that I've had with a few people that I know that own leagues, and to broadcast, not to broadcast, because broadcast sometimes tends to bring some riffraff in, glory hunters that run over everybody just so they can see themselves talk on YouTube for a minute and a half at the end of the night. So, Fred, let me ask you this. What are your thoughts about, you've only joined Josh's league, but if you go out and think, hey, I can run another night, let me go see if I can find something. Does a broadcast matter to you?
Not really. I just want to have racing that you can actually race. As long as the guys want to race and don't want to just wreck each other, I want to join it.
How about car counts? Because those are the two things I think people look for. That, is there a decent car count? I mean, if you joined a league and, wasn't broadcasted, so you didn't know anything, and you got there and there's 9 guys in the server, does that make a difference for you?
Yes and no. It depends on, is it an equal fair race? Is it an open setup deal? If everyone's close and can race and put a good show on, yes, I'll probably stay. But if it's not, I'm not going to stay, unfortunately.
Well, how about you, Josh? I mean, even from a league owner's hat, because did you ever have any of your seasons that weren't broadcast?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Honestly, broadcasting has never been that big of a deal to me.
Broadcasting is a great recruiting tool.
Oh, absolutely, it is. It's just for me, for me to race somewhere, it's not important to me. I'm there to essentially, get to know a group of guys and just have fun racing. That's the whole goal, is to have fun. I mean, that's literally. So as for broadcasting, yeah, it's a great tool. And when I do have it, I don't mind going back sometimes and looking at it, and on your good nights and your not good nights, to be like, what could I have done better? But and again, car counts. Back when red light started, when I joined in, we were running 5-6 cars. And it was still a great time because we were running side by side, and we had a good time. So car counts, not the biggest deal to me. Makes it a little more funner if you have more cars out there, I guess, just because there's always someone to be around, especially if you're on an off night. But definitely not important.
Yeah, I like broadcast because it's cool to go back and watch it. Or if you can't make it a night, you can see what was going on that night, watch your buddies run. At first, I think I was in the take it or leave it camp, but I think I've kind of graduated a little more into I don't know that I would seek out a series because it's broadcasted, but it is nice to kind of watch, and you can keep tabs on, what's going on when you're not there, hey, who won that week. And I've also seen it help leagues from the recruiting standpoint. If you put a good race on and things like that. I know when I see a broadcasted league, I'll actually will look at the car count. How many cars are there? Does that, and then it's nice that you can see the quality of racing going on. So I've seen some leagues that are broadcasted that, man, I'm glad I saw them rather than just showing up and try to race with them, because it's like you watch them and it's like, ooh, I don't want to be a part of that. And then there's other ones where you see and it's like, oh, I mean, OBRL is a great example. OBRL puts on great races. If I was available on Sunday nights, I would go and love to run mid-pack with those guys, because frankly, I'm not going to run any further than mid-pack. But it would be great to show up and race with those guys. In fact, they race other nights of the week that aren't. I go race with them based on what I've seen on the broadcast, and obviously being one of the people broadcasting it, I can see it. But it made me want to go run their non-broadcasted stuff. So yeah, that's always an interesting discussion and all that. I got to ask you real quick, Josh. I talked about sometimes that brings the riffraff in, that are wanting to come and all they want to do is either see themselves on TV. I've had conversations with Ryan about guys that have, through the years, have texted him, "Why didn't you show more of me?" Literally, that stuff happens. How easy it to spot those guys when they come into your league?
Some of them, it's I don't.
You don't have to name names. I'm not asking no names or throw anybody
no, it's
under the bus.
basically just on the different, social media things like Facebook and all that you
Yeah.
have. Obviously, you're part of groups. I can't tell you how many times I see people go on, I'm looking for a league. It must be broadcasted, things like that. And those are the people that I don't even say anything to, because it's like, if it's that important to you, you're probably not coming here for the right reason. And again, it's about, keeping that, core that we have, and what's working for us seems to be working. So when you see that attitude instantly, I have zero interest to tell you, hey, come, check us out, things like that. And then other people, sometimes you don't know until you get into it. And then just like you said, they'll be like, oh, why wasn't I showing a little more and things like that? And it's like, well, I don't have control over that. And it's also, it's based on what they're looking at. So, I mean, if you want more airtime, maybe get more to the front. I don't know what else to tell you. But yeah, I know sometimes you can tell that. Sometimes you kind of blindside. He's like, oh, I didn't think this was going to come, but it did. So
yeah. It's always that's always an interesting take on the league part of it, because the open servers, the officials, normally aren't broadcast. So I guess your turn. You got another one?
Yeah. So I will start with Fred on this one. When it comes to the official races, I'm curious on this. How many of the different varieties of cars have you used? And what would you say is probably one of the funner ones doing all the official stuff?
I'm that guy that if my buddies are on and they want to race whatever they want to race, I'll jump in with them. But seems like lately I've been going to the sprint car route a lot on Tuesdays and Thursday night after like racing with you, because grew up open wheel racing, so a lot watching it. So I just like, and all the guys in there, it's like racing a league. It's still as fun, and they help you out with setups. It's all good.
Do you prefer just going on that? Do you prefer fixed setups or the open setups where you can make the adjustments when you're doing official stuff?
I'll race either way. Most of the time, I'll jump in the fix, so I don't have to try and get something to go quick. But if I'm in like the sprint car, you gotta figure out the setup, so it's what it is.
Gotcha. So John, same question. I have a feeling I know where this is going to go, but so what do you prefer?
Well, I prefer fixed, and well, if I had time, I would prefer open. I've run a sprint car a lot here over the last couple of years, a dirt sprint car with 360 winged, and it's an open set races that I've done, and it is so cool to sit and massage on a car to start trying to get it to do what you want it to do, set up, because especially with those cars, as you burn fuel off, it definitely changes the characteristics and how it handles and everything else on dirt, so you got to set up a car that's good for the last 20 or not the last 20, that's probably the last 10 laps of a race, because that's money time on dirt. but it's really cool when you nail a setup and you do really well with a setup because you put effort into it, you put work into it, and then for it to pay off and you win a race or something like that, or have an outstanding finish, it is more rewarding. At least for me, it's a lot more rewarding. I don't go to setup. I use a setup shop to do the base, but I get right off of them. I don't think I've ever gone on track with a car that was right square from a setup shop. I learned what the different settings were, and I would just get the base off there, and then I would go and start massaging it to get to where I wanted it. And, but right now, where I'm at in my life, and last week I think I worked 60 some odd hours fixed. That's that's just lack of choices because then I don't have to mess around with anything. I could just get behind the wheel and go. But now the cars and the servers that I've done, the officials, I've probably done maybe 3, 4 on the oval side of things. That's both dirt and asphalt in the last 5 years. Most of my official starts all come on the road racing side. Most of them are endurance racing. A lot of them are in the VRS, the 3-hour race that they do on the weekends, every weekends, and all that stuff. I have teammates, that we've done a lot of those, and it's just that's. If I'm going to go the official route, that's the way that I go, because then I can do something like Fred said, hey, if your buddies are on, to me, there's no more fun thing than, hey, let's all get on the same team and go run a race for a couple of hours. And, and we always, our goal is never to go out and try to win, do any of that stuff. It's, hey, we're just here to have fun, compete the laps, be able to BS for a little bit, talking back and forth, just have a good time. And 3 hours are up, we go do something different. And so, yeah, that's my preference on the officials.
Yeah, okay. I definitely get you on that with the official stuff. I'm pretty much the same way. If you look at the official stuff that I've really done in the past 5 years, you're going to see the same thing every year, the 24 hours of Daytona. Doing some preparation with that is the only time that I really do open setups because, it's kind of how that goes. Just like you, I don't really have the time to try to tinker with setups. I'm not that knowledgeable with the setup stuff. Some guys can, click this, click that, go here, go there, and you'll be fine. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it is great doing the 24 hours of Daytona. I was never interested before. I got asked to fill in once, and I was like, I don't know if I'll like it. And man, I've been doing it every year since. And now we got, I think, 3 different teams in just red light alone that will go out and race. And we have a good time, and we spend at least a month ahead of time working on it and just putting down laps and stuff. And some of the best part of that is preparing for it. Nothing better than jump in one of the hosted sessions of just random people, because it's going to be the same thing when you do the official race. So the practice is racing around people that you might be racing with come time for the actual race. So it's definitely, it's cool, but like the official stuff, I've just gotten so into with the league, my league specifically. I like running the SK modified or the Tour modified, and that's what we do there. So that's where I put my effort into that. So I don't need to do it on the official side because I don't really have the time to do it when I get home anyway.
Yeah. And, we talk a little bit about the on-track product on the official side, and iRacing has done a tremendous job of getting us all these different cars and all these different disciplines, and then able to race. No matter what kind of form of auto racing you like, you can almost at any time at the top of an hour pick something and go run. And man, it is so hard. They've kind of, I hate to say that, it's not bashing them, but they've kind of boxed themselves into a corner with their own success, because now that they've added all these cars, now that kind of makes sure people are minding their P's and Q's on the track. They're not having to kind of monitor a small sample size. You think after a 24-hour period, how many races iRacing does? I've always wondered that question. How many protests do they actually get? Barring special events, because I'm sure special events, the protests go way up for those races. But I've always wondered, like on a normal 24-hour basis, what's the average protests that come in? I would love to know. That would be a cool contest for them to say, guess how many, and see how many people can get that right.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what I would guess. I mean, it's going to go up on the weekends probably. Most people not working, but just overall average. I mean, as a league owner, I mean, what do you get? Maybe one protest at every couple of weeks, if not one a week,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it differs depending on the league. For
and
mine,
the track.
yeah, definitely the track might have something to do with it sometimes. But for mine, I mean, we pretty much lay, across the board. We're here to have a good time, have fun.
Yeah.
This is getting away from real life for a couple hours, just enjoying ourselves. Like, yeah, in the moment you get wrecked or you feel like you were wrong, you're frustrated. That's fine. That's why I have the team of admins. If you are that frustrated, reach out to us. It doesn't happen very often. Some of the times the conversation, they have valid points, and you try to deal with that and make sure that their voice is heard. But then other times you just be like, I heard you complain about the same thing 2 weeks ago with a different guy. It's like, and we had that talk then. But it's for the most part, it's not a lot of people coming to me, but sometimes it does happen. But it's part of the process of running a league. So
Yeah, I mean, the open server stuff though is, like I said, that bigger sample size, boy, they've done such a great job. I think they boxed themselves in the corner trying to keep that law and order on the track. But Fred, all those cars you were talking about when you first came in, was the SK the car that you gravitated to? You talked about earlier about being kind of a sprint car guys. So when you first joined, what was your go-to car?
SKs, because I'm from New England. It's modifieds everywhere around here, so that's
you got voted off the island if you did something else.
Pretty much, yeah. Other than that, super modifieds what I've grown up around, so it's like modifieds is super.
I wish iRacing would get those. I wish iRacing would get those. Did you dabble in anything else so that surprised you, that you're like, hey, this is kind of fun?
Some of the road racing stuff, I would say, because
nice.
I'm not a road racer. I'll be first to admit I struggle at it, but I want to get better because of like doing league racing. They want to go run a road course. Well, I don't want to run around in the back, so I'm gonna try and get better. So I'm doing other road racing stuff.
Yeah, road racing. I fell into it by accident. I just wanted to do something different, and I went and did it. And even though I sucked at it, I had fun. And that's kind of the worst combination of stuff when you either stink at something or can't do it, but you have fun in the process. That's the definition of how bad habits start, I think. But, how about you, Josh? When you first got in, what was your go-to car that you had?
Well, I mean, I'm from New England as well. Grew up going to Stafford, so SK Modifieds were definitely the biggest thing once I found iRacing that I really wanted to get into. But again, as what you were saying, the road course stuff, I never really thought about it. I ran the rookie stuff with that. What is that, Miata?
MX-5.
I hated it. I just I couldn't get the feel of it. So I kind of blew it off after that. I was like, I'm not really interested. And then I got asked to run this 24-hour at Daytona, and I'm like, okay, what kind of car? And it was the old Corvette, the C.
Nice. Yes.
And he goes, oh, by the way, if you want to run, you need to get your license up to a C license. And I'm like, okay, no pressure. I'm still, at like D because I got into it, and I'm just like, I don't like this car. But that definitely was. It was a lot of pressure, a lot of nervousness because, again, I'm doing something completely out of my comfort zone. But once that race was done, I was like, that was actually a lot of fun. So I definitely did enjoy that. And that's why I do the 24 Hours Daytona every year because, I know the track. It's familiar. We switch around the car a little bit, but they only give you the certain classes to run within. So, kind of pick just whatever car you want. We ran the Corvette last year. So, but yeah, no, that's something that definitely I wasn't expecting to have fun with, but definitely had a lot of fun with.
Yeah, that Corvette was the first one I did in the 24 with the Western PA guys, with the Shanowskis and J.R. Shepard and them. And man, that car was a lot of fun. Holy cow, that car was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, for me, I being dirt wasn't around, so I came in and the old late model is kind of where I was really. I couldn't wait to get out of rookies because. I think I joined iRacing during a 13th week, so my first impression was 13th week. So those of you that are in iRacing are all having a collective laugh right now. But for those of you that don't have iRacing, 13th week is like getting on the track with a bunch of drunken, blind, crazed drivers. Just people, I don't know what it is about 13th week, but people lose their mind. I think because a lot of this stuff is not official. So, you don't get strikes against you on your ratings or anything like that. Guys can just, they turn into enduro races basically. So yeah, that was my first impression. It's amazed that I even pushed through that. Boy, when dirt came out though, man, I went right to the late model. That's what I drove in real life. And that has been my go-to car ever since. That's kind of my happy spot, is getting in those dirt late models and then driving. So, but yeah. And the same thing too with the same thing as you though. Like I said, the road course stuff, man, I like doing that, but I wish I was better at it. So, but what about you, Josh? What's your next question?
So let's go with the hosted sessions are a lot of fun. I personally think, just because there's so many different things, and it's a little bit different from official racing, because official racing is pretty straightforward with this stuff. But it's almost like league racing, but not, because it's just a one session. And you have your various different that I've seen. There's some guys that literally host the same race, like on the hour, every hour, like Daytona races, stuff like that. So John, I'll actually start with you on this one. So going into hosted stuff, what is something that really sparks your interest in a hosted session that you'd like to run?
Two things: either a car track combination that you never get to do. I mentioned that I ran the modified on a road course. First time I ever saw that in iRacing was in an official. Somebody had the old, and I know it was the old Tour mods at Lime Rock, which is, they used to race Lime Rock in real life years ago. So I thought, hey, I'll go try that. And, stuff like that. Occasional figure 8 race and all that kind of good stuff on there. I'll go do that stuff. But the other thing would be if I don't see anything interesting like that, it would be a car choice. Something that, hey, I don't ever get to drive. I can go, and I don't want to get into official because I don't want to screw anybody up over there. Not that I want to screw anybody up in a hosted, but the penalties are less, because there's people over there that are trying to get their I ratings up or that kind of stuff. That stuff is important to them. Hosted, you don't have that kind of penalty system in there. You still want to be as clean as what you possibly can, but look, I'm not if I finish dead last, my I rating's not going to tank. Like, I care about my I rating anyway, but it's in the back of my mind, I suppose. I don't know why, but yeah, that's probably the two things that I look for in those hosted sessions.
All right, so Fred, how about you with that? What do you think?
Like he said, neat stuff to race. Like, I ran Pro 2 Lights at USA one time just for something to do, and then a bunch of me and my buddies host them all the time. Just interesting combinations that you don't expect to see. But then if there's like an SK race up somewhere, well, I'm going to jump in it because I like racing them. It really depends on the mood I'm in. Do I want oval, dirt, road? It's going to just kind of click the button and say, yeah, that's the one I'm going to choose right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely get you on that one. And it's basically what you guys are saying too. I like just the things you wouldn't think of, or even the figure 8 stuff. You see someone with a figure 8 race, those are entertaining. You don't go in with very high hopes because it's a figure 8 race, but it's something different, and it's just, you don't see it all the time. So it's like, you just, go through the hosted sessions. I see that and I'm like, you know what? That sounds fun. I'm going to run that. As for the car, when it's hosted stuff, it don't matter the car. If it's something that, hey, you know what? I haven't run this thing in forever. Let's go and run that. I'm perfectly fine with that. And so I got to say, people get pretty creative with some of these sessions that they put up.
Yes.
And it's just, it's baffling. It's like, wow, I never would have thought of that. That is a great idea. And I'm just like, next thing, click join and let's have some fun. Sometimes it works out and you're like, wow, that was a lot of fun. Other times it's like, well, lap 1 and I'm done. Well, at least it was a hosted session. Like you were saying, I'm not losing my iRating or anything. Not that I really care about it. If I cared about it, I'd probably be doing more official, but I don't have the time that I used to when I got my iRating to where it is. And, I like to gloat where it's at, even though it's not really high, but 2,800 works for me. And I don't know if I'd still be that fast if I got back into officials, but I don't want to find that out the wrong way either. So.
Well, if it makes you feel better, my I rating on dirt is like 1,700. So, but I haven't raced them in years on there. I know that it would be high. I know it'd be much higher if I tried. But let me ask this question with the hosted. I'm going to ask you both about hosted, but in a different respect. When you go into a hosted, because you said you got recruited, Fred, you got recruited to Josh's league out of the hosted, right?
Yeah.
So when you joined that race and you saw that it was a recruiting, what did you hope to? Did you want to be recruited? I mean, what were you hoping? What was your expectation of going into that?
Going into that, I was actually hoping to, because I was to the point, I'm like, I kind of want to join a league. I'm like, I was looking for a modified league because I like mods, and that's where I felt most comfortable. So I wanted to start in a league with that. So I said, well, I'm going to try to run the first 3 recruitment races he did, and hopefully I make the shot. If I don't, I'll just find another league. Luckily, I made it.
Yeah, and then Josh, let me ask you, because put your league owner hat on here real quick. When you host there to do recruitment, what are you hoping to find? I mean, obviously drivers. So, but is there a type of driver that you look for? Because you're only getting a very small sample size.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there something that if they see you and they want to join your league, how do they stand out?
Yeah. So basically, I make it clear when setting up the sessions. There's a little, place to describe, something about what the session is, and I'll always put what we're looking for. We're looking for clean and respectful drivers that want to come out and have fun racing on Thursdays. So my expectation when sitting there and watching the drivers is, are they being clean? Are they being respectful? You're obviously going to get people that come in and think, their stuff doesn't stink and they can do this and they can do that. And then, I have the admin powers to go goodbye and remove them from the session. And then somebody keys up, why'd you kick my friend? He did nothing wrong. I was like, I've seen you guys beat off each other for, 10 laps and involving everybody else. I'm like, it's clearly in the label what I'm looking for. And obviously every league's going to be different on what they're looking for. But it's just, you see the guys that actually care and do take the time. It's like, hey, I could make this crazy 3-wide move and make myself look better, but then we all wreck. Well, I made the move, Instead, you see guys think about it and then they back off. And that's the respect part, especially when you don't know some of these guys. Because what I like to do with the hosted sessions that we do for recruiting is I'll actually, ask my league guys, my regulars, to come out and help show everybody else kind of what we're looking for. And I'll also gauge off of everybody else from my league that runs and be like, how did you like this guy applied to the league? You ran around him. What did you think? And I'll get, everybody else's feedback because we all know what we're looking for. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that whenever I've, like I said, went to join a league, and not so much in the hosted, but just, I guess this could be some people out there that might want to go look at leagues. Don't ever assume. Don't assume that you're going to be good and be able to mop up with the league, or you're going to be horrible and not be able to compete. Always give the league an opportunity, because, I mean, I was really good in the modifieds. I'd won open, the server races and stuff like that, and was always very, very competitive. I joined BRL. It was humbling because when I got in there, I was a 6th, 7th, 8th place car. And I was not used to that. I was used to being up front. I mean, and it made you hone and it made you get better. But that's the one thing I would tell the guys on the other side. Don't get discouraged if you come in there and you're running mid-pack. There's some leagues that there's guys. I know everybody brags about guys that have like 6,000 I rating. I'm going to tell you, there's some guys that are hidden in leagues that don't ever run officials that might have 1,500, 2,000 I rating. I can promise you if they wanted to have the 6,000 I rating, they'd be in there. They'd be up there if they really put their mind to it. So that's kind of the one PSA I would say about those hosted and the league and recruiting aspect of it. But Josh, I think it's now your turn.
So, all right. So let's go with this one. So if you're looking for another league, what are some key aspects of that league? I don't know if we already asked this question. Maybe we did. That really spark your interest to be interested in joining.
Structure
Okay, we
was
did
the
do
big
that
one.
one.
Yeah. But no, I mean, that's still something good to come back on, because anybody that aspires to have a league, you know, and we could ask it this way, as somebody that runs a league, what are the two key elements of your league, do you think, which makes it strong?
Clean and respectful. I don't think I need to do any more than that. Every league is going to be different, and the guys that run leagues are definitely going to have their own nuances on it. I've been a part of leagues that have a Bible of rules, and it grows more and more as they run into situations. And it does fine for them. They've been around for years, and it's a great structure. Some people really like that stuff. Me, on the other hand, I don't. I do have a life outside it, so yes, I do run a league, but trying to just keep it as basic as possible. It's like we have a basic rule book. I think it's about 8 or 9 rules long. It's pretty straightforward. We don't go diving into dig into every race and then go, you did this, and we're going to go with this penalty on 3-2-7, stuff like that. It's just clean and respectful. That's really what I look for.
Yeah, and Fred, for you that is in his league, not so much what you're looking for in a league, but what are the two things that keep you in that league?
Just what he said, the clean and respect part. You can race guys there, and you're not like worried, am I going to get wrecked? And everyone, you have a shot. Like every week there, they give you the setup, so everyone's on the same setup. Some guys might practice more, you might practice less, but you never know. One week I might qualify in the back, next week I might qualify up front. Every track's different, and you can race with anyone. Because one week I'm racing with Eric Stout up at the front, next week I'm in the back with someone. It's like, and they give you the same respect from the front of the pack to the back of the pack. That's what I like.
Nice. Real quick, I mean, we didn't touch on it or at the top here, but there's now a new way to do iRacing, outside of league hosted and official, but they have AI. Have either of you guys delved in and raced with the AI any?
I have.
A little.
Well, okay.
That is
Fred. Well, okay, Josh, go. What is your first impression?
So it's different, but I do like it. I actually like to use it as kind of a practice model.
Yes.
There's nothing better. Like we do put up practice sessions the night before our Thursday race for 4 hours, but still, sometimes you get 2 people out there and you don't know. It's a really great tool that I honestly blew off for the longest time, and now I'm like, what was I doing? You can set as many cars as you want to be on that track with you. I've done as crazy as just practicing for Martinsville. I'm just like 30 cars, let's go. And it's chaos, but it's a great tool because you think it would be chaos. You think it would be a bunch of cars wrecking. They really don't. The only car is going to be wrecking is if you're wrecking somebody or you're trying to. And I use that tool to especially for the modifieds, to see if I can perform bump and runs cleanly. And no better way than that. And if I can't do it to that, then I'm not going to be able to do it on the race. So I'm not even going to try. But it's
thought about that.
Yeah, I think it's a really great tool. Not only gauge, and you can obviously make the AI cars faster or slower, whatever which is another.
They have adaptive. They have adaptive now, where they just go based on how you drive and what so they can fit right in there. Where you just got a bunch of competitive cars where you're actually racing. So, Fred, how about you? The little bit that you've done there, what was your?
I never actually. Josh brought up a very good point. I never thought about taking the setup we run on Thursday night and putting it against them AIs to see how I run and what I can do. Might have to try it now. Yeah,
I love the bump and run practice.
Hey, sometimes you get to eat somebody.
That's freaking awesome. I've dabbled in it a little bit because number one, iRacing, if you're listening, get it for dirt ASAP. But if if I've used it mostly on the road stuff to get familiar with the track and things like that. But that adaptive AI, I tried it in IndyCar, and now iRacing. And I'm glad Ryan Seneca pointed this out to me. Now you can go to the official races, and you can set up AI races based out of those. So if you click on an open server, like let's just say the SKs are at South Boston, and you want to run just because you love South Boston, but you can only see like maybe 4 guys signed up for that particular race, right? Well, I would like to race with more than 4 guys. Maybe some strange hour or whatever the case might be. You can go down there and click to duplicate that AI, and they'll put you on the grid with 20 cars, 30 cars there, same conditions, everything, right off like that. Easy peasy. I did that with an IndyCar race, and that was the first time I tried the adaptive AI. And it was crazy because I qualified like 7th or 8th, and I was like, wow, okay, without touching the sliders, competitive, but didn't. With the sliders, I always had a hard time. I made everybody way faster than I was, or way slower. I could never find that sweet spot with the 2 bars, because you had a minimum and you had a maximum that you could set their speeds on. But the adaptive, I started, qualified 7th. I drove to the front. I mean, just drove around guys, and I was like, hey, what happened to the adaptive AI? Well, turned out the AI was all back there taking care of their tires, because the tires fell off. I'm not kidding you. Parachute came right out of the back of that car, and I whoop right back through the field. And I was like, you have to be kidding me. So they've got that AI down pretty darn close, because I mean, like I said, I drove from 6th and it was at Iowa. I did the IndyCar race at Iowa. I went from 7th up to the lead. I think it took me 15 laps in an IndyCar at Iowa, which are 18-second laps. Got to the lead and had about a half a straightaway lead by lap 20, lap 25. Well, that's when the tire fall off started going. And all of a sudden, even cars I lapped, were passing me. And it was like, yeah, they got the whole AI thing down, where even the strategies of taking care of your tires and all that evidently are part of it. And that just blew my mind. It's not, because back in the day, the old AI that I grew up on, I'm older than both of you, but the AI drivers would block. I mean, they would just do stuff that was inexplainable in front of you. Racing, console games and things like that. The guys you race with, it was never realistic. And this AI stuff, man, they've got it pretty well nailed down. I mean, like you said, Josh, if there's a wreck, chances are you're the one that caused the wreck.
No, it's a really cool tool that, as Fred is basically explaining, it's like, I never utilized that, and I do recommend, if you haven't tried it, definitely test it out. It's a great tool to have, and especially if you're trying to prepare for something. It's one of the best tools that I think go so underrated on the service.
Yeah, 100%. I started using it, like I said, for the road. Ironically, much as we talked about, that's what I used to get ready for Daytona when I first came out. And I set the maxes way different, because I could have them, because we ran that Corvette, which is a higher level. So I set it slower so I could simulate coming up like on GT3 cars. And at the time, I think GT1 was part of it, and then I don't know that there was any other prototypes. I think it was just GT3, the GT2, and the GTE. That's right, the GTEs and the GT1s.
They keep changing it.
I know. I'm just telling you, back in the day there, but yeah, that's what I kind of used it for. So the AI thing, yeah, I think we're all in concurrence on that one. If you haven't used it, go try it.
Absolutely.
And I would actually try it on the officials, like what I was saying. I actually had a lot of fun doing that, and I thought to myself, and iRacing probably doesn't want to hear this, I was like, I may never join another official again now that I can just do that. Hey, I'd like to run that track, and there's, either not enough cars, or there's, a ton of people. which when there's a ton of people, I always, because I don't race it enough, I'm always in a bottom split, which sometimes that can get sketchy. Yeah, so, well, very, very cool. Well, guys, we've kind of, I think we've touched on everything here about the pros and the cons of being open and running the open servers and running the officials to all the way down through the hosted to the leagues and now the AI here. So, we should thank Fred for joining us, but we do have one more bit of business here. We could talk about here what's coming up this week here on the VGN network, and all three of us can kind of carry that discussion here. Let me, if you can see my eyeballs probably looking up here. I'm pulling up what's going to be going on here this week. I thought I had it pulled up. But hey, this week, let's start here with for Thursday night. Red light. You two guys, you're going to Hickory. So what is it'll be what time do you guys start there, Josh?
We start at 8:00 Thursday.
8:00 Thursday. So what's your expectation for Hickory?
It's going to be a lot of close quarter battles. Those elbows are going to be up. It's going to be the same thing for me every week, which is basically try to just, get to the bottom early, just ride your race first, 50, 60 laps, gauge how everybody else is. If anybody's burning their stuff up, if they're, catching me really quick, I'm not going to, try to block them off. I want to be there at the end. And then we have the great tool of the extra set of tires that I like to use around 70 laps in. And hopefully that will be an advantage. Still a lot of testing to do before we get there, but I'm excited for that one. I have a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah. How about you, Fred? What is your expectation as you guys roll into the Hickory there, that bull ring? Because that's one of those tracks that's a textbook definition of a bull ring.
I'd like to survive the race, but more or less, I want to defend my win from last season there, surprisingly.
Oh, nice. It's a defending winner here. Very, very cool. How did you start up front on that? Was that one of those where you had to work your way up? How did you come about winning that last year?
Like normal, probably started mid-pack. Can't qualify to save my life. And survived wreck, like Josh said, took tires with 40, 30 to go, and it all worked out. And final restart on the outside, past Bradley Steffens for the win, surprisingly.
Nice. Well, Saturday night after that, you guys are on Thursday, then Saturday, August 9th, the BRL Late Model Series is going to go into North Wilkesboro. The new, thanks to Dale Jr., one of the newer tracks. I guess it's been around for a year or so, a little over a year, but still one of the newer tracks on this service. How about you, Fred? Have you logged a lot of laps at Wilkesboro?
Yeah, I like the official deal when they did the 150 lap wheeling race there. I ran them just for something to do, have some fun.
Do you like the track?
I do. I actually like it a lot.
You do? Oh, I gotta ask them, what is it that you like? Does it just suit your driving style, or because that's a weird track because 1 and 2 is completely different than 3 and 4. Back straightaway, you're going uphill.
I like them weird tracks, like weeds for it on the dirt. I like the weird tracks.
Nice. All right. How about you, Josh? What do you think of old Hickory, or not Hickory? Sorry, Wilkesboro.
It's a good, basically what Fred's saying, it's a very unique track and what you were saying as well. You got to attack both corners completely different. I am curious on if we're going to see the repave on iRacing at some point that they did. Unless they haven't updated that yet. But I'm excited for that because I'm curious if that brings a lot more grip because what we use right now is the older track state. So it makes it a little more, of a handful. So I'm curious if it's going to be more stable with the new, fresh, pavement or how that's going to play.
I don't know if they put the new, I thought and I could be wrong, I thought they scanned it again and re-released it with all the updates.
Maybe they did. I just didn't notice that. But the last time we ran it, it was the old stuff. So
I'm old. I tend to forget things. So, or misread or miss everything. just ask my wife. She knows. But then we're going to wrap up the weekend next weekend, August 10th at Watkins Glen with the OBRL and put those cup cars, and they once again get to go right and left. Which you guys are just there at Watkins Glen. those Cup cars are a different beast than the SKs there for sure. But, Fred, what did you like about Watkins Glen? I mean, or disliked about Watkins Glen?
I liked it all because, like I said, it's unique to take the modified and say, hey, we're going to go run the road course. So you don't expect it. So I kind of went into it without any expectations, just wanting to survive, and had a blast trying to not spin out going into the right-handers for some reason.
Josh, what about the track? What do you like? Do you have any dislikes or likes about the track?
The track itself, I think it's it's a road course, so it is unique because all road courses have their own characteristics. The bus stop is definitely one of my favorite spots because it can be chaos. It's like, the amount of people that, show their nose and send it into that corner. And it's like, there's no way we're going to go too wide in this corner. And then you come out of the corner still too wide. And you're like, how did we make that happen? I think that's probably one of the most challenging parts of Watkins Glen. My favorite one is coming out of that carousel. It's just crazy seeing how a lot of different people go in and out of that corner in different ways. And, it bit me in the butt the other day because trying to come out of the carousel, I was trying to carry as much speed as I could. It was faster than I did. I hit the rumble strips and my car I didn't like that, and I went right. And unfortunately ended my night. But it's so many different areas that are very unique. Turn 1 is another perfect example of that. But anything out of that track, the bus stop for me.
Yeah, I mean, I like those guys in those big, heavy Cup cars. That's what the OBRO will be running there. So for me, I know from a broadcaster, the first two places I'm going to have my eyes kind of watching, especially if I'm starts and restarts, are Turn 1 at the end of that straightaway. Everybody having to get those cars woed up and make that turn. But then, like you said, coming into the bump stops, because you see it on short track racing a lot where guys have different agendas going into a corner. Some guys like to attack corners, trail brake, roll the car. Some guys like to lift early and just let the car, let the engine slow the car down and kind of keep momentum up. Same thing on a road course. Some guys can brake pretty deep. Some guys have to start braking halfway down the straightaway, let off the gas halfway down the straightaway. So, those are going to be the 2 points. But watching those Cup cars definitely go through that bus stop back there, boy, I can't wait to see those OBRL guys do it. Zach and I were thinking, when they went to COTA, we thought, oh my gosh, these guys this is going to be a caution. Well, not caution, but we thought people would DQ out because of their incident point. Believe it or not, those guys there in OBRL set their incident level at 9. Once you hit 9, you're DQ'd in those Cup races. And they're running 152. Guys hardly get DQ'd. I mean, that's how clean. The races I've raced with them, if all the way through people hold their lines, people make good decisions behind the wheel. Is there an occasional mess up? Absolutely. Sometimes, cars just get away. I mean, you're racing, you're pushing, sometimes cars just get away from you. But for the most part, yeah, you don't see DQs that often. So, but again, can't wait to this week here on VGN. There's a lot of good stuff out. Next Tuesday, we'll be back right here again, so you guys can come back, tune in. I do think, and if Josh can agree here, I think our topic next week, since we talked about it enough, I think we should talk about endurance racing a bit next week. What do you think?
I like it.
Endurance racing it is next week. So tune in here. We'll kind of give you, if you've ever been curious about it or wanted to go dabble in it next week, tune in here and we'll tell you why you should. So, but until then, my name is John Heyn, along with Josh Buckley. And again, we want to thank Fred Leclair for joining us here this week. Until then, have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of VGN Weekly. Join us next time for race recaps, interviews, and much, much more. Please like and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our broadcasts. If you are a league owner or potential sponsor and have a broadcasting need, please visit virtualgrip.net for info on how to get in touch with us. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network and the Skidder Creek Motorsports Group.